there has to be a certain amount of trust. It's great when each one knows that the other party is somebody of goodwill, and we're not out to gratuitously hurt each other. We have disagreements, we're upset with one another, but if we sat down and spoke about it, we can figure out a way through this.
So what is a collaborative divorce, and could it be right for you? Well, that's what we're going to find out right now, because that's what we're going to ask the lawyer. Hi again, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com, and my guest is New York City Attorney Chaim Steinberger. I want to remind you, if you have questions about your specific situation, head over to AskTheLawyers.com, click the button at the top of the homepage that says Ask a Lawyer, and you can ask away right there. Chaim, good to see you as always. Thank you so much for making some time to answer our questions.
It's always my pleasure to be with you, Rob.
So specifically in New York, what is a collaborative divorce? I'm not even familiar with that term. What does that mean?
Well, collaborative law with a capital C, capital L is a very special process, and it's a lot different than litigation as it's traditionally been practiced. The most striking feature of it, but this isn't where the magic happens, but this is the most striking feature. The most striking feature of collaborative law is that both lawyers and both clients sign an agreement that if either party leaves the negotiating table and goes into an adversarial process like litigation, both lawyers will have to withdraw. So that reduces the incentive for any lawyer to torpedo the negotiation. It puts an extra impetus on both the lawyers and the parties to go that extra mile to try to achieve a settlement, because they know that the moment the settlement doesn't go, the lawyers are out, the parties have to start all over with new lawyers and bring them back up to speed. The lawyers serve as everybody involved in the collaborative practice is a trained mediator. And the entire system is set up. The idea behind collaborative practice is that, or collaborative law, is that 99.9% of all cases settle without ever going to a judge or decision maker to make the ultimate decision. Okay. So we set up a process that really is specifically designed to protect the rights and to take people to that 0.0001% of the case. How about we set up a process that's right for the 99.9% of the cases? Let's figure out how to make it happen. And so everybody involved in the process, whether it's the lawyers, whether the accountants, whether the child specialists, whether it's the I guess I said psychologists that help figure out what we should do about the children. They're all trained mediators, and so they help the parties come to resolution. Now, like mediation, it's up to the parties to decide what works for them and what doesn't. And the lawyers are there to protect them, to make sure. I call collaborative law mediation with protection. So if you go into mediation and you don't have a lawyer on your side, then you might be making a mistake, and the mediator's job is not to protect you. If the mediator says, well, wait a second, you're about to make a mistake, the mediator may have torpedoed the resolution. And the mediator's job, of course, is to facilitate a resolution. So collaborative law is mediation, has all the benefits of mediation. We don't further traumatize the relationship. You don't walk out of the process hating each other even more than you did before the process started. And of course, people getting divorced don't have a whole lot of love towards each other. But it's the mediation process, but with the protection that each party has a lawyer at their side to say, wait a second, let's talk about this. Let's figure out how to make it happen.
So does that mean if you go through a collaborative divorce and everything works out, do you never have to go before a judge? Is there that doesn't happen? What's the process?
So if the collaborative law process is successful, then like with any mediation, the lawyers draft an agreement, the parties sign an agreement, and the lawyers put it through the legal system as an uncontested divorce with all of the terms that you and your spouse has already agreed on. So you don't have to appear before a judge, you don't have to get up and talk, you don't spend the money doing that. And so if it's successful, you never show up before a judge. If it's not successful, then you have to start the process anew in a litigation posture.
I would assume that makes this a more, it's not as an expensive way to go, yes?
Well, so in the beginning when collaborative law first came out, We sold it as it's a cheaper process, it's a quicker process, cheaper, quicker, cheaper, quicker. Dr. Julie McFarlane, a professor from Canada, did a 3-year longitudinal study and said that that's not necessarily fair because there are litigated cases that settle very quickly, and there are collaborative law cases where parties go on and on trying to figure out how to do it. So it's sort of comparing apples to oranges. I can't promise that a collaborative law case or a mediated case will go any quicker or that it will be less expensive. I can't promise that. What I can promise is that a collaborative law case will not further traumatize the relationship. So when you have a dispute with somebody, the way that you negotiate determines how you feel. In other words, if we have to decide, we have a bowl of jelly beans and we have to decide who gets how many jelly beans. If we use any power-based determinative factor, so if it's who's stronger, who screams louder, who spends more money on a lawyer, then at the end of the day, even if I get all the jelly beans, at the end of the day, I'm not going to like you as much. But if we use one of the processes where we say, let's figure out what's fair, let's figure out what's best for the children, and we talk about what's fair, we talk about what's best for the children, at the end of the day, even if I don't get any jelly beans, I'll feel more generously disposed towards you because we didn't further deteriorate our relationship. So particularly when you have children in common and you have to keep parenting those children, not only to age 21, 18 or 21, not only when child support stops, but the children might be 35 years old. And if the parents don't agree who does Thanksgiving Eve and who does Thanksgiving Day, the children are always caught in a quandary. If you want to give the children the gift of being able to love both parents, if you want to be able to walk your child down the aisle with your co-parent, your ex, then you have to find a way to continue to negotiate without further deteriorating the relationship. And it comes by treating people with dignity and fairness and honesty, but also by protecting yourself. So most people don't do these things because we feel very scared. And when we feel scared, we tend to clam up and become more rigid. And so the collaborative process is designed to let people open up, explore more options, and find out what's going on. If you'd like, I can give you some examples, Rob.
Well, first of all, you've made me want jelly beans now. But so is this the kind of thing that you would say any family law attorney could step right in and do this collaborative process? Or is this somebody that you need somebody that has some training and has some experience in this area?
So collaborative law is only practiced by a small number of practitioners. Number one, the person has to be trained as a mediator. And then, the person has to be a lawyer, and then has to be trained as a mediator, and then on top of that, a separate training as a collaborative lawyer. But more importantly than all of that, has to have what in the collaborative law field is called a paradigm shift. So when you walk into negotiation, you're not walking in as an adversary saying, how do I get over on the other side? But rather saying, how do we work this out? How do we make this work for both parties? So for example, if the wife wants the house, I need the house, I need the house. Perhaps by saying, why do you need the house? And she goes, well, wait, little Johnny's got ADHD and the school has a great special program for special needs children. So then it's not the house, it's the school district. It might not be the house, it might be friends, it might be her elderly mother. And by looking at not only the actual demand, but the broader interest, you can generate different possibilities. It doesn't always work, but you'd be surprised at what percentage of cases it works, that the moment you get behind a stated position, but you get to the person's interest, where you can find a way to satisfy both one party's interest and the other party's interest, and that's how you get to win-win resolution, where neither party loses and they both win. It's like having two cakes instead of one, where each one can get the full cake.
Right. So it doesn't mean everybody goes into this, oh, we're best friends and there's not going to be any, no disagreements, and there can still be some contentiousness. It's just having people that help you work through that.
So when people come into the collaborative law process, there's a lot of contentiousness. The parties have to be at least in that frame of mind that they're willing to explore it. It does require a commitment of time and energy and money. And they have to be willing to allow themselves to be guided. So if somebody's consumed by rage or anger, then probably they're not a good candidate for collaborative law. On the other hand, I would warn my clients, there are some times where you can't trust the other side to go into collaborative law. So if you think that your partner, your spouse, just wants to drain your money out of you, and then when you're close to the finish line, they walk away from the table, and now you've expended all of your time, your energy, your resources, now to start over may be close to impossible. So there has to be a certain amount of trust. It's great when each one knows that the other party is somebody of goodwill, and we're not out to gratuitously hurt each other. We have disagreements, we're upset with one another, but if we sat down and spoke about it, we can figure out a way through this. And that would be a perfect couple, perfect candidates for the collaborative law process.
And you've had a lot of experience with that process?
I've had experience with that process. And I do that, I do mediation, and I, of course, do litigation.
Chaim, lots of great information as always. Thank you for helping us out and answering our questions. I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure being with you, Rob.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been New York City attorney Chaim Steinberger. I want to remind you, if you want to ask questions about your specific situation, just go to AskTheLawyers.com, click on the button at the top of the page that says Ask a Lawyer, and you can do your asking right there. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with Ask the Lawyers.